printer over the weekend, and that was cool because normally when I'm heating it up, if it heats up, it'll get some filament that starts coming out and kind of swirling around, and then when it gets to the heating temperature, it'll go to print, and it's got all this extra filament laying around. So what I did was I had it go to a corner, and it'll fill, and then it will heat up while it's in the corner, and then once it's heated up and ready to go, it'll drop down and go woo woo through the brush, and then it'll lift back up, and then it'll go print. So it starts printing with a clean nozzle every time, and it's really effective and it looks really cool.
I think I may have done something to fix that.
Cool.
We're still waiting to hear from our listener whether or not that's happened because I can't ask in the chat because I don't have that open. The chat shows up on the screen, but I don't actually have a link into typing in it.
In other news, I went to see my orthodontist today, and today I got rubber bands to put, and they have to loop around two teeth on the top and two teeth on the bottom, and it's really hard for my, big old fingers to get, that agile in my mouth. So what I did was I designed a little thing for the 3D printer that'll will stretch out the rubber band in like a square that's just the right size. So I put it on the thing, and it's like, it's not really square, but it's like imagine an eye, a really fat eye with the top bar and the bottom bar, but it's also, kind of projects out at you and has little hooks around it. So it'll spread out the rubber band so that I can put it on that, and I can just put it in, and I can feel it, and I can hook it on both top teeth at once. Once it grabs those, then I kind of give it a rotate, and then I can hook it on the bottom two teeth, and it works really well. 3D printers for the win.
Well, I still haven't contacted you about making me anything with your 3D printer.
That's correct. You have not.
I'm sorry.
And you know what? I haven't made you anything with my 3D printer.
I can accept that on the basis that I was otherwise engaged.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry that you didn't make me anything with your printer because I have yet to ask you about making anything. Which,
Well,
of course,
next
is
time
a
I
very
don't
good
do
reason
that.
for you not to know. So I did a lot of things this week, which I'm going to tell you about.
Ooh, I'm
Also, I've
all
been told the
ears.
sound is very low, so give me a moment to turn a knob.
There's a knob.
Of course, there's a knob, but
There's
either
always a
way,
knob.
yeah, either way, I will continue to work on that while we're talking. But at least now,
Speaking of knobs,
yeah.
did I tell you what I did with my volume knob?
Did you
I got a
3D
new
print a new
desk.
one?
I 3D printed a bracket that would hold the knob because it normally sat on my desk, but I got a new desk, so I 3D printed a bracket that would I could screw to the bottom of my desk, and it was just big enough to fit the knob, and it had like little fingers that would go around it at just the right spot. So now my knob is under my desk and very secure.
That's good.
Cool.
I built a new weather station here.
Oh, did you get new weather?
No, this is new as in I finished the construction duplicating the other weather station. So I mentioned to you that I had done some construction, but now it has a weather cam, so you can see the weather. I've added in some additional light detection, and I'm working on a UV sensor that just showed up today. So I continue to iterate here.
A UV sensor.
Yes.
Already, I have one of those.
Yeah.
We call them fish.
Fish.
Yeah, because they glow in ultraviolet.
Well, I'm just talking about one that returns a number into one of my boards.
Oh,
Although it
yeah,
is
ours is
currently not
more of an
returning anything.
analog sensor.
Yeah. Right now, my digital sensor is not returning anything, and I have to figure out why. But that's a project for later. Other than that, I've been exploring the parts of the state of Florida, since I know you love Florida so much.
I love my little part of Florida.
Yes. So
I'm kind of
today,
fond of our governor.
why not? I'm not fond of him either, but
No, I am fond of my
oh,
governor.
you're fond of him? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly fond of him. But again, I'm not fond of my governor. So,
I'm not fond of your governor either.
well, I'm not fond of many people in politics, just in general. So, I may be colored by the fact that I dislike many people in politics. But either way, I went and took a little drive. So today I went down the Tamiami Trail. It was very nice. There were very few people, and I got to see things. So I saw alligators.
Wow.
Have you seen an alligator recently? I hear there are a lot of them here.
I cannot say that I have.
Okay, so
I
I saw.
can't say that I have. I don't think I've seen an alligator in a long time.
So I went and I saw alligators and I saw other things. So I drove along the Tamiami Trail and stopped at those little recreational centers where you could walk around and see things and like swamp. And then I did something I got to see another thing that I've never seen before. The Gulf of Mexico.
Oh,
So I drove across Florida.
probably didn't take you very long, did it?
Well, it's longer on the Tamiami Trail than the interstate. So I got to see many things. And then after that, I turned around and came back. And yesterday, I also took a drive. Yesterday, I went to a drive-through safari. Have you ever been to one of those?
Sounds like fun.
Well, there's one. I have to recommend one in Pine Mountain, Georgia, that I've never been to.
How are you recommend something you've never done?
They're
Are they
publicly
paying you?
They're publicly traded, and I own stock in them.
Figures you're getting paid.
Well, I figured that that's a business that would do well in a pandemic.
Sure.
So, admittedly, I didn't drive to Pine Mountain, Georgia. However, I visited a similar drive-through safari here in Florida. So I drove there and I got to see animals. It's always nice when you're driving around and you have to stop because there's a rhino crossing the road and you don't want to be hit by it.
Yep.
So it was fun. I got to take pictures of zebras, ostriches, lions, the whole set.
I'm glad you had fun.
We'll see. Even without encountering other people or avoiding them as much as possible, I can still find interesting things to do. So I'm working on that antisocial social thing.
Did you socialize
Yes.
with the animals?
No, with the other people in the car, we had to sing along.
Oh,
We sung Hanukkah songs all the way across Florida. And yes, there are that many Hanukkah songs.
I'm not surprised.
The only thing that annoyed me is Sirius was supposed to launch Radio Hanukkah today, and for some reason that station did not exist in my car. Well, actually, not my car, since I was using their car. But either way, something to look forward to in the future. And I continue to settle in here, so looks like I'm going to be here for a bit. So might as well make the best of it. So I have all my equipment, and if it turns out that this whole problem with the audio is not something that I have fixed or enhanced, then I will continue to tweak it until it is perfect. Because this is where I brought all the old equipment that previously had been retired from the other place, where I brought the equipment that I had previously retired from the other place. So I might as well leave this stuff here. Anyway,
Yep.
So that was that. Again, lots of projects here. And I continue to try to adopt your state as best possible. At least Adafruit
Our
ships in.
state is not an orphan. Our state is not in need of adoption.
Well, I was talking about as like my third or fourth hiding place. not as I know it's not an orphan, but there are nice parts of it. I thought Naples was nice.
Lots of Florida is nice.
I can't say that about every part of Florida, though. I've seen some pretty rundown parts of Florida.
Well, not every part of Florida is rich.
Rundown and rich are two different things.
Rundown implies lack of rich.
No, more not necessarily maintained. I wouldn't say that's rich. Rich, I think of as luxurious. So I did see some of that. Houses that I would not.
Everything's relative.
Yep. For me, I'm referring to places that did not look like they were maintained, not necessarily that they had more of a luxury feel. So not much happened this week, at least on the front. So the most interesting thing that I saw was this thing from Google itself about how they improved urban GPS accuracy. Did you catch this?
No.
They apparently improved urban GPS accuracy.
How did they do that?
They essentially used some 3D modeling of buildings. So I'm going to put it up on the live stream so that everybody can see it, except the people who are listening, which is most of the people. So I'm putting it up so that I can remember the specific details. So they essentially are using 3D mapping aided corrections. So Google has 3D building models, and they're using that to sort of estimate why there may be inaccuracy as people walk.
Right.
So they're releasing this on the 5 and the 4A, 5G. And other phones have version 1 of this particular technology, which is reducing it by 50%, and version 2, which is on the 5 and the 4A 5G, will be available to the entire Android ecosystem sometime next year.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, but if you look at if the pictures, it's sort of interesting. So they show a map of a pedestrian test with a Pixel 5 walking along one side of the street and then the other. And then you can see they have the path followed. You have a red, so that's in yellow. You have red, which is the without 3D mapping aided corrections, and blue with the 3D mapping aided corrections. So the yellow line, which is the path followed, is straight, obviously, because that's exactly what they did. Then you have the red line without 3D mapping corrections, where you see them sort of spiraling in this weird configuration back and forth across the street. And then you have blue, which is much, while it isn't perfect, it's much closer to what they actually did.
Oh, yeah. It's impressive.
Technology marches on.
This is about the math. Math marches on.
Technology is built on math. Is it not?
It is?
So there was a Google Photos update that added live wallpaper.
Ooh.
I haven't used live wallpaper in ages. I haven't really played with my
I haven't
wallpaper in ages. But I like Google Photos cycling through my photos, and I'll be very sad when I have to pay them for storage. But even though I have storage in other places, I would consider doing it because they have the best photo frame experience, I think, of anybody.
Mm.
Unless that, it would be nice if they would allow me to use a different provider, because I do have photos in multiple places.
Sure.
But I doubt they'll do that. You never know, though. Moving along, Google Maps now lets you create Street View photos with just a phone. So previously you needed some more specialized equipment, but now if you don't have such specialized equipment, you would be able to create your own Street View experiences in areas where they have not run their official van, using a phone that is AR Core compatible. And the user-generated content will be used when it doesn't have its own imagery.
Wow.
And I sort of like this because what you're saying is we're not going to go down this area, and maybe if we go down there in the future with our big fancy van, we'll replace it. But until then, at least there's somebody who was able to do this for us. Because I can think of many places where Street View hasn't been. Where I've gone and tried.
What phone are you using?
Me? Pixel
Yes.
3 XL. Is that AR core compatible? I don't even know.
It is. Apparently, the um,
All the pixels are?
back to the Nexus 5X.
Okay, because I don't think I've ever taken advantage of those features. Even if I didn't, I actually do still have that 360-degree camera, which I still have trouble figuring out how to stage a 360-degree photo.
To give you an idea, the Samsungs,
Yeah.
all the way back to the Galaxy S7.
Okay, well, as I said, I don't think I've ever really looked.
So it's been around for a while.
Yeah, so that's an
Cool.
opportunity.
That means lots of people can do this.
Yeah. Although they discontinued cardboard, which is a shame. Because I like the idea. I didn't really like the idea of holding my phone up to my face. But I sort of like the idea of being able to put on like a cheap plastic thing with my phone and sort of see it as if I was in an immersive world. I thought that was a nice little gimmick that, regrettably, I guess didn't catch on. Anyway, if you are using Google Recorder, it now supports external mics and Bluetooth headsets, or will shortly.
I use that. That's a nice app.
Yeah, I actually want to use it for a project that I'm hoping to do in the near future.
Yeah.
Well, when my grandparents passed away, one of the things I regretted is I hadn't really recorded them talking about their lives. So I said to my parents recently, since obviously they are getting older and nobody's here forever, that I should sit down and record them talking about their lives before, well, hopefully not in the near future, but hopefully at a time when they were no longer able to talk about it, that I would have something. And I thought Google Recorder was a good idea because it can also transcribe it for me.
That would be cool.
I thought so. I just have to figure out, what questions do you ask somebody when you want to hear their life story? By the way, if your answer is, tell me your life story, I think I
not a
need to
very
be a
good
little better than
question.
that. Well, I think I need to be a little more specific than that.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
How did you meet your first love?
I choose to believe that that happened only once and occurred in the circumstances that I choose to believe. Although if you listen to my father, he married my mother because he lost a fencing match. But I think he's not serious about that. He also told me that he invented the silicon chip while slicing salami.
Sounds legit.
Parents. Anyway. Google Assistant can now access your calendars and Meet events from multiple accounts.
Oh, no.
Well, that's actually good if you have multiple accounts and you want to be able to access your calendar and not have to switch back and forth. So the idea is if you have a work account and you have a personal account, your Google Assistant, if you give it permission, can look at your work account and your personal account and tell you about what's going on in both of them. So this is not happening automatically. You have to actually ask. Google has announced end-to-end encryption for its Messages app. Have you been using Messages or have you been using something else?
Something else.
Okay. I had to try Messages because they're discontinuing Hangouts integration.
Yep.
So I've been using Messages. It isn't bad. Admittedly, I put it into the mode where it's supposed to sync to the web, but I have to fiddle with the web thing for that. I also had to separate my Google Voice account from my other accounts, Hangouts. So now I used to have one app that did everything, and now I have to have 2 to 3 apps. Good job, Google. You've improved the experience for me.
Not really.
That was my point. You may have heard the sarcasm. I know I'm subtle at it sometimes. But... Anyway, moving into some other news. IKEA is ending print publication of its catalog after apparently 70 years. So you will no longer be able to look at your pictures of your Trod-free devices. Do you have any Trod-free, Jerry?
I can't even pronounce that.
But that's their sort of smart home line. Those are their smart light bulbs are all Trod-free.
No. That's kind of my main issue with IKEA is I can't pronounce any of their stuff.
I don't know about that. I remember many years ago when I started work at my current job, which was 17 years ago on December 1st, by the way. So I've worked there a long time now. Concurrent with me starting there, I was redoing part of my living room and putting in bookcases. So, I was looking for something modular because I have a tendency to change my needs over time. So I happened to be not far from one IKEA. So I went to IKEA and I bought some Billy bookcases in beech. And I said, what I can do is as, pieces wear out, I can replace the pieces. If I need to expand, I can add additional beech Billies. And then, you know what happened? IKEA, who has had the Billy line for over 3 decades, didn't discontinue the Billy line, but they discontinued the beech. So I had this whole problem that what I needed to do was I needed to be able to expand and replace pieces of my beech Billy system, and I couldn't because there were no longer any beech Billies. So I went and bought some beech Bestas to put next to my beech Billies so that I could supplement while I tried to figure out what to do about the beech Billy problem. So, we go a few years later, I want to expand my Beech Besta collection, and guess what they did? They discontinued the Beech Bestas. So I went back to the store.
Rapidly iterating.
Yeah. So I went back to the store, and I said, okay, well, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to switch from beech to birch. And so I bought myself some birch Expedites. And I said, the great line Expedites, a little different design, but I can supplement and I can start replacing my old broken beech Billies with some birch Billies, because they still made birch Billies, but they didn't make any beech Billies or any beech Bestas. So, concurrent with this, I already had some beech items because on my shelves, which I had mounted in the wall, like presentation shelves where I put like little items that I wanted to display, those were also birch colors. Those were Ekby Jarpins, which I had attached to my wall. I have my IKEA lingo down. I speak fluent IKEA.
Clearly.
Yes. So after that, I went back and I said, okay, well, I really like this Expedite, and I can put my records in it because I do still have some 33s. It was the right size for that. I can slide little boxes into them and put things other than books. So I said I'm going to get myself a second birch Expedite to put next to the first birch Expedite, and I went to the store and guess what?
They discontinued birch Expedites.
No, they discontinued Expedites entirely.
Oh, no.
But here's the good news: they replaced it with the Kallax, and they did have a birch Kallax, although it was a slightly different birch. It was close enough. So I bought myself a birch Kallax, and then recently I said, well, I want to get a third birch Kallax, and guess what?
I don't know.
They don't make birch Kallaxes anymore.
Oh, come on!
So IKEA is not good if you want to continue to buy things to add to your furniture collection with them over years and trust that the item will actually still be available in the color. I understand. I accept that the design may change slightly. It may not be exactly the same, but whatever color I pick just seems to be the only constant has been that they have not gotten rid of the black-brown Billies. And I still do have black-brown Billies because while my living room is all full, well, no longer is because I no more beech, was full of beech Billies, my bedroom had several black-brown Billies. And some black-brown Bestas, but they also do. They still make the black brown Billies, but they don't make the black brown Bestas. So I don't know what I'm going to do if I need replacement parts in the future. By the way, this is my IKEA story. I like IKEA. You can get some inexpensive items, although the problem is every individual item is inexpensive, but when you put all the pieces together, it adds up there. You know, you go in there and you say, okay, it's only $5 for an extra shelf, and before you know it, you spend $300 in shelving. But that's many stores. Same thing if you go into a container store and try to buy wire shelving. But either way, that is my continual IKEA story. But I do like every so often going and getting their smart bulbs, which I have used, and they work well with they're Zigbee compatible, so you can use them with Home Assistant. If you use their hub, they have an integration, and when their changes to their software would have broken the integration, they apparently actually did help out the Home Assistant project in getting it working again in an unofficial way. As they have said, we don't officially endorse anything, but apparently they did make it rather easy for them to fix the problem. So I'll appreciate IKEA on some levels.
My wife hates going to IKEA.
I didn't say I like going to IKEA. Going to IKEA is like experiencing a Greek myth, you know, the one with the labyrinth. I feel like I need a ball of twine in order to get myself out of that place.
Yep.
I'm saying they have some good...
Wasn't there a story about, you know, how they have those arrows on the floor to tell you which way to go?
Yeah.
Somebody get arrested for putting down fake arrows?
They might have. I don't remember that. I remember there were people who used to sleep in IKEAs. There are all sorts of weird things about IKEAs. But either way, I am sad about their print catalog because it was a nice thing to look at. And I don't think I would sit down with the digital version. I like every so often looking at pictures of other people's living rooms and trying to get ideas.
I do that with colors, but it never works out.
Well, there are many things. You know, you know how many times over the years I've tried to clean my network wiring, you know, or the wiring behind my desk, and it never looks like any of those professional server installs. My wires always look like a rat's nest, no matter what I do. Anyway, moving along, in a bit of sad news, Chuck Yeager has passed away.
This does make me sad. But boy, he hung on, didn't he? 97 years old.
He had a good life.
An important life.
Yes, and he
Him
broke this.
breaking the sound barrier was a big deal because everybody said he'd die, or he could just destroy the planet by catching the atmosphere on fire, or crazy stuff like that.
Well, I'm glad that the atmosphere didn't catch on fire.
Me too.
I probably wouldn't be here if that had happened. But either way, he lived a good life. He died at age 97. He did a lot of different things, and I am sad to see him go. There was one other death this week that I was a bit sad about. I heard that David Lander died, who I used to watch on television. But anyway, in one bit of happy and interesting news, since now I'm sad, Wyze has announced a $60 a year home monitoring service that they will be doing in March. They seem to be very busy lately. Have you noticed that? They're like announcing...
Wyze? Yeah,
they're announcing like one new product every 5 minutes. So they have a watch now, they have a home monitoring system, and I sort of expected them to go in the home monitoring system because every time I put in another Wyze Cam, they, you know, are talking about their Cam Plus service.
Yep.
Which I'm not paying for and don't want to pay for. It's not it's just not a right value proposition for me. But I was looking at this. So their home monitoring system is a replacement for the Wyze Sense, and I feel bad. Do you remember the Wyze Sense, which was their, you had a little receiver that you plugged into the USB port on the back of the Wyze, and then you could pair sensors that work on the 915 megahertz band, and these sensors would be motion and door.
Sure.
So they've discontinued those because the sensors are faulty. And I feel bad because when I discovered that somebody had created an open source project where you could plug the USB receiver into a computer and then you hook it up to Home Assistant, I talked several people into buying these for that purpose. And and now they're discontinued. And apparently, if the battery gets too low, it'll stop working entirely.
Sure, I remember us talking about
Yeah, I just feel bad because I suggested it to people. But so this is their version 2. So they have a version 2 hub. So instead of you needing, plugging into a camera, they're giving you a little hub, which is apparently, again, it has Bluetooth connectivity as well as 915 megahertz RF, which is what their sensors work on. There's a YSense keypad, which is also 915 megahertz RF. There's a YSense V2 entry sensor, a V2 motion sensor, and their monitoring plan is $60 a year or $5 a month, and it's powered by Noonlight, which responds to you if you tap the emergency button on the Wisecam. I've never tapped the emergency button on the Wisecam, but good to know.
I didn't know there was one.
Well, I've never had an emergency that I'd want somebody to respond to me on, but apparently there's a dispatcher who would route data to a 911 call center. So this looks like a very interesting offering. And, I've been trying to implement a lot of these myself. But I haven't quite gotten to 100% home monitoring, especially at what happened. I started out with home automation in the current era. I did X10 like 20 years ago. But I started with the garage door. I think I told you the story of how the garage door led to my home automation obsession.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So the garage door that button that I installed is from LiftMaster, and they apparently recalled this thing. So over the course of the summer, I have access to 2 garages. One is my old grandparents' garage, which isn't used, and the other one that I maintain is my parents' garage, since I do not have a garage. And when they're in Florida, I often put my car in their garage since they live in the same area. So a few months ago, the garage in my parents' house, which had one of these receivers from LiftMaster, just stopped working. And I found out that the capacitors inside the receiver were faulty and that had a tendency to fail. And if they failed, the people at LiftMaster would send you a free replacement, which they did. So I was afraid the ones in the other garage would fail, so I ordered, since same part, bought it roughly the same time because I liked it so much on one garage, I installed it on the other one. And so I ordered the warranty replacement, even though the device had not yet failed. So guess what happened earlier this week? On Tuesday.
It failed.
No, it didn't just fail. It opened the garage when it failed. And I'm in Florida, so I cannot go over there and close it. So technology being what it was, that was something of a problem. So I knew where the replacement part was. I had talked about replacing it, but I had been talked out of it by my family, who are the owners. So they said, don't worry about it until it fails. We don't want to go through the annoyance of having to repair our garage door openers. So it failed while we were away, so we had a bit of a problem. So this goes back to monitoring. It failed, and what I don't have right now is I do not have a system that will tell me if certain items go offline. And I've decided now that the only way that I found out that this item went offline, because it's the item that's supposed to tell me when there's a problem, was that the woman who lives in the same building noticed the garage door open and went and closed it and called and said, "Did you know your garage door opened?"
And how long was it between the garage door opening and her noticing, or do you know?
2 hours.
Oh, that's not bad.
Well, also on another note, because I'm out of town, I didn't bring my car. My car is actually parked in that garage. I left it in there. So somebody could have stolen my car. But
Well, having access to the garage, at least here, is a bigger deal because normally the door between the house and the garage remains unlocked. So gaining access to the garage means gaining access to the entire house.
well, because the garage opens up to the common hallway where several people are, there actually is a lock on that door. It's a keypad lock, so you can open it from the garage without a key if you know the code. But you are correct. Somebody could get in there and mess with the electric meters or something, I suppose,
Yeah.
or make off with something because there's like one of those overhead storage shelves. But again, this is one of those things that I've sort of noticed, and why I'm talking about monitoring as it comes to Wise, which is the one thing that I've realized that I'm not monitoring enough of is I'm not monitoring to see if things stop responding. So I need a second system that watches the first system and tells me whether or not the first system is no longer responding to anything. And I have this when it comes to some of my servers, the ones that run Android Buffet and such.
Yeah.
So I have a little function on another computer that pings it every so often, and if it goes offline, would tell me. But I didn't do that for some of the home automation stuff. And I have to figure out how would I do that.
Of course not.
No, how would I know? And I want to just sort of, I've been thinking about it for a few days now. And how would I essentially put in to the system that it would tell me if something became unavailable? And, things do fall offline. For example, I have these door sensors that I've been meaning to replace because they frequently go offline and I have to press the button on them and repair them. And if I have to press a button on a security sensor and repair it, then I might as well replace the whole sensor. It's just not worth it.
Especially as cheap as they are.
Well, again, I don't want to pay another $15 a sensor for a door sensor, which is about the average rate for those things at the lower end of the spectrum. But again, if the one I have is not being reliable, and I have another one that is very reliable, the problem is the ones I have that are really reliable are from the discontinued product brand. That brand doesn't get manufactured anymore, so I need to find a new brand that's more reliable than the brand I tried to replace them with, but otherwise reliable.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
So, again, this is the continual problem with you trying to build your own security system, which is, and when I say security, I'm not talking about, home monitoring and sending calls to 911. I'm talking about just knowing what's going on around my house and doing a reasonable amount of checking on it. So I know when the door opens, I know when the door closes, I know if the door stays open. But if the sensor that tells me that goes offline, I don't know that. So there's a gap in my logic.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm working on my latest round of sensors here because I love adding sensors. So here, because I am in a confined apartment space, I've been experimenting with VOC. So I have a TVOC sensor, which does an estimated CO2 value. And then next to it, I have a gas sensor, which also estimates air quality, but it does it based, its reading is kiloohms.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been able to, assuming that the numbers are right, I've been able to determine that the air within this apartment that I am currently staying in is bad. Is well above acceptable levels.
Wow.
Yeah, the air purifiers show up tomorrow. Well, I tried opening the door to this is several floors up, so there's a balcony. I tried opening the door to the balcony, but the guy next door is a chain smoker, and I don't think it would help to let large amounts of nicotine smoke into the apartment. I don't think that would improve the air quality. Just being realistic.
Sure.
Anyway, so that's my problem as of today, but it gives me something to work on here. Additional projects, and I'm going to be here for a bit, so I might as well get everything perfect. And Amazon comes every day.
Same time.
The people in the lobby have found it immensely hilarious that every day a bunch of boxes shows up because we're trying to get this place renovated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're not leaving it very much, just to take walks and drives. So we're not really going to restaurants or anything. Not that we were big restaurant people before, but so it's an opportunity to get everything clean and do some projects. So on Sunday, my father and I actually were in their bathroom replacing an exhaust fan. So we'll see what else we end up doing here.
Are you gonna make it a Zigbee fan?
Well, you've heard the term spousal acceptance factor. have,
I heard wife acceptance factor.
same thing. In this case, it is parent acceptance factor because it's their apartment, not mine. So they like the sensors. They like sort of the whole air quality thing. They've gotten a real kick out of that. I haven't really sold them on smart light bulbs, but I think that's mostly the X10 experience when I was in high school. They were really annoyed when their lights kept going off, but X10 was like that. So I have never wired up their place for large amounts of smart switches and bulbs, but it is a project that I will hopefully talk them into someday because I think there are advantages. The only places that I've been able to wire up switches for them would be certain lights that need to go on a timer, but not their regular daily switches. Anyway, that's the latest problem from my end that I'm trying to solve. Hope you've enjoyed hearing some of my stories of my attempts at automating 3 separate locations of homes. Only one of which is actually my apartment.
Locations of homes?
Yeah, you saw me trying to do home automation in my apartment. You've heard me trying to do a second home automation site in the woods, and now a third home automation site in Florida. So Site Alpha, Site Beta, and Site Charlie. I don't know if I'm ever going to find a Site Delta. How many different places can I try to wire up?
All the places.
I'm running out of relatives. Should I go? Should I go visit? Should I go visit my brother? And try and automate his house?
That would be fun and interesting.
Spoken by somebody who's never met my brother. Does it scare you that I think I'm the normal one? And I'm pretty eccentric?
It doesn't scare me, but it does provide perspective.
Yes, I am pretty eccentric, but I think he makes me pale in comparison. But either way, I don't know how he would react if I said I want to come to your house and build a home automation weather station. My niece was on board with the weather station idea.
That's cool.
Yes, her school was really interested in her pursuing the idea with me as a project, except for some technical problems. But we'll see. It could still pan out. Anyway, that brings us to the end of our episode for today. Just to remind you of our schedule for the coming weeks, and I will double check the audio. There must be a sound check option somewhere in this hardware, because the stream is done by a dedicated streaming device, and I don't see a meter on it, which is why it's hard to sort of see if the audio is coming in. So I apologize for that if I didn't fix it, but I will fiddle with it.
That's not what analog meters are for.
No, I want a digital meter.
Right, because you care about the number. Analog meters are good for when you care about rate of change.
Well, I'm talking about like the little view meter thing. Like the little line that goes across. That is technically digital, but it's a reproduction of an analog function. But either way, it does not have any sort of meter to tell me what the volume is within the stream. So I can't monitor it, but I can monitor it at the board, but the board is before the stream. So the board tells me that the audio is good, but I'll fiddle with it a bit. Maybe I'll just create a fake stream. You could probably create a fake stream and test it that way. And I will continue with my saga of various projects and what happens with them. I've already done light and other things this week, and I have a lot of fun additional things coming. In order to get my light sensor mounted, since I cannot actually mount any hardware outside, it's forbidden by the building. The light sensor is attached to a suction cup hook inside the sliding glass door. And since I can't do a camera outside because you can't make a hole in the wall, the camera is hung up like a houseplant on two cut up wire coat hangers.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll swing in the wind. Or the hurricane. But it's a $20 camera, so I'm not that concerned. But I do enjoy the creativity of it. So I may not like the fact that I can't make a hole in the wall and put something out there permanently. But I like the creativity of trying to work within those rules. Because it gives me the opportunity to try new and interesting ways of solving problems. If you can appreciate that thought.
Yep.
So until next week. And I am sorry, Jerry, but nobody responded to your query of last week. I checked. We didn't get any comments.
That makes me sad.
If you think of anything and you want to bring it back up again, feel free. Until then, I will see you again next week, same time. Following week, 1 hour earlier, 1 day earlier.
Yes.
So Wednesdays at 8 for 2 weeks going in consideration of the holiday. And Jerry,
Yes.
enjoy the season.
And yes, to you as well.
Yes?
Happy
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, happy days, man.
I'm still waiting to meet somebody who celebrates Kwanzaa. Or I may have met somebody who celebrates Kwanzaa, but they didn't tell me. But I've always been curious to learn more about Kwanzaa from somebody who observes it, and I have never found somebody who I could have that conversation with. So if you know somebody who observes Kwanzaa who wouldn't mind me talking to them about my curiosity about the holiday, please tell me.
Okay.
I'll be happy to answer any questions about the same thing in reverse. Again, not asking for anybody to be an expert, just curious. Anyway, I'm off to, as soon as you send me the recordings, to edit the podcast.
Bye, folks.
Goodbye, everyone.
See you next week.